Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for your Chelsea versus West Ham preview. Are we not just so sick and tired? I mean, I was going to rename our football club Chelsea Bonnie Blues because I was expecting to see an absolute queue of men outside Stamford Bridge in my last video when I did a transfer segment. Expected to either leave or join Chelsea, but I was just expecting to see people coming in and out of Stamford Bridge. I was expecting to see a queue. I was expecting to see some African aunties out there putting men by the ears. Don't sign for them. But I was expecting some movement. I'm expecting some transfers. Not necessarily so. Just pure, utter waffle. Round and round in circles. Away we go. Tell Duran, name after name this week. Now Ferguson is the latest name. We're going to discuss all of that transfer news in this video. We're also going to discuss, of course, what's important and realistically actually upcoming, the game against West Ham, because Graham Potter is coming back to Stamford Bridge and he's got a set of kahunas, it would seem, in his press conference. He's speaking with a bigger bass in his voice, so we got to make sure that we're very attentive and ready for him, because there is absolutely nothing that we need less than Graham Potter and West Ham coming to this club, Stamford Bridge, and winning. They're not in great form this season. He's obviously taken charge of a couple of games now and trying to steady the ship and recover the wreckage, but make no mistake, this is, again, as always, an absolute must-win for us, because we are, everyone was saying, don't get too irate, don't get too angry, we're still fourth, we're not, we're now in sixth, we're now dropping further down the table. And to be honest, by the time we play this game on Monday, 8 o'clock kickoff, of course I'll be doing a watch along. And it will be deadline day, so that will be very interesting. We could be even further down the table potentially, so it's really not a great situation to be in, but we've put ourselves in that situation. So yeah, listen, I am very disappointed with the way that this last week has gone. I've tried to make a meme and a joke out of it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the last video, but in all seriousness, not impressed one bit. We're clearly lacking a key spine line of a team from goalkeeper all the way to striker, as we were last year when we entered the window in the summer, and it's still the same situation now, and we've done absolutely nothing to rectify and fix those problems along the spine. Heck, if you got 4 problems, can you solve 2? Can you solve even 1? At the moment, we've done none. And not only have we done nothing in regards to the spine, in terms of the striker, in terms of the midfield recall, in terms of the centre-back was already done, I guess, with Chalobah, but it's not going to be enough. As we've seen, he's still got mistakes in him as well. He's not top, world-class elite. Then you've got the keeper as well. We'll talk about what the managers had to say in the press conference. But the lack of outgoings is even worse, because at the very least, you can get rid of the players and the mistakes that you've made as recent as 6 months ago, some of them a year ago. At least start to clear the cluster, trim the fat off the food, but we're not even doing that. So what we're gonna do is, and I'm gonna get into a bigger point in a minute, but what we're actually gonna end up stumbling upon ourselves is with a very unhappy potentially group of players, because some of them clearly don't want to be here. They're very disinterested. They're very happy to agree personal terms with Bayern Munich, with Aston Villa, etc., which means their head is not at the football club. But because we haven't secured exits for them, as I'm recording this video, they potentially will stay, create a cluster, as we had a couple of years ago in our first full year, if you remember, under this ownership, where we signed about 10 players in January and didn't clear a lot of the players that we already still had. So we had a squad that was so big that some people were still playing Nintendo DS and PSP outside the change rooms, couldn't even fit to understand the tactics of Graham Potter. Ironically, the manager we come up against, you're going to find yourself in a position where, I'm not saying the squad's going to be overly bloated, it is too big, but it's not as big as it was back then. But you're going to have a situation where you're going to be dashing the same B team into the Conference League that don't really want to play in that competition. We haven't seen really enough opportunity or chances given to certain players over this winter period, so they're clearly either not trusted or rated, etc., by the manager. Either or is still a poor indictment on the directors. And we're going to have a situation where we've got players like Nkunku coming on against Manchester City who are not disinterested is the word, don't really want to be here, don't necessarily press or don't have the capacity to do so, don't bust a lung to get into the box and be the striker that they're in position to be, and all of these extra, factors come up when we're talking about qualifying for top four. We're not just talking about the technical level of the team, but we're talking about the mental level of the team. And the mental level is very questionable. We're already seeing drop-offs from Cole Palmer, physically fatigue-wise in the midfield. Cole Palmer, could he not do with a little bit of competition at this point? Could he not do with potentially, yes, being tactically versatile, to put him on that right-hand side, to give gusto on the overlap, take him out of the epicenter and the fulcrum of the team, put a Felix in there, put someone else in there to maybe earlier, if we put in Cuckoo in there, he wouldn't be so pissed off right now or disinterested, but have the flexibility to go back to some of the things last season that were actually correct or went well for us in terms of the gusto overlap and what a player he was last season with his chance creation, but just go back to a couple of those things that worked to try and reignite some of the things that we're failing upon right now. Of course, some of the things back end of that season that we're doing currently are still working. Cucurella inverted into midfield. We did that the last 5 games of last season. Just having a bit more flexibility and fluidity in the way that we do things, but we don't have that. And yeah, it's turning into a bit of a car crash. But in terms of this club right now where it stands and this window, if there's one thing you're learning quite quickly is we don't have as much money as we would like to portray that we have, right? Every single deal that is being tabled or reported, and I've said this before, as you've noticed, I've not covered any of it. I've not covered any of it in a serious way. I've not done any transfer videos because it's all smoke and there's no fire. It's all BS. And there's actually, there is a lot of shit. There is nothing tangible or serious in most of this stuff. It's all opportunities, but most importantly, it's all one deal relying upon another. And this was bound to happen when you spend the amount of money that we've spent, and on top of the fact that we don't have the biggest stadium, we don't have the highest gate receipts, we don't have a front of shirt sponsorship, we're not in the Champions League. I was always asking the question, where is the money going to keep coming from? People are talking about signing Gyökeres. I'd love to go in for Gyökeres at a release clause. I'd love to be able to go and say we can get Isak. We don't have the money, right? Pool power is a different question. We got rejected by Tel, it would seem. He wants to go elsewhere. I think he'll reject Tottenham as well, but we're getting rejected by a lower caliber or quality of player every window, it seems. That should never happen. But where is the money actually going to come from? If you don't strive to be the best, if you don't push to be the best, it will catch up with you eventually financially. And every deal last summer was PSR related. Every deal last summer was agent led or in some sort of, financial benefit to the club in terms of pure profit, bringing someone in, stagnating the transfer fee over 5 years. This window is more of a reflection of that in terms of Garnacho for Nkuku, in terms of Felix and Disasi for Duran, in terms of Nkuku for Tel. Everything has to be a swap. So if you're sitting there, and not only because of a financial perspective, but also because of squad size perspective, we haven't cleared the players. And what did I say a couple of months or weeks ago? Don't judge them on selling Havertz and Mount, who had actually achieved something at the football club and were easier to sell because of past reputation, whether it be at Bayer Leverkusen or being the 2-time player of the year. Judge them on how they sell Disasi. Judge them on if they actually sell Chukwuemeka for the 40 million asking price that we all knew they was never going to get. Judge them how they sell Nkuku. Judge them how they sell, players that they don't rate and rank highly, Shrewsbury Halls, etc., that they've already brought in. Renato Vega will only take a transfer fee. Now he's out on loan, etc. Judge them on these deals. And to be quite frank, this window has been an absolute shit show, disaster, and an embarrassment. And that's how you judge the selling quality or power of these people in charge, the directors or the ownership, whoever picks to do whatever deal they wish, whether it is actually Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart or it is Igbali stepping in with the elbows out to finish off a deal that they fail on. There's so many moving pieces and parts, but it is an absolute ridiculous situation to be in where we actually don't have the money that we think we do, or the money that you lot think we have. We don't have it. I'm sad to tell you. That's why I keep banging on the door that we have to make Champions League, and this whole we don't have to make top 4 thing is absolutely ridiculous. And then to still expect quality to come in, thus thereafter not making top 4 is almost brain dead. But the fact that we've spent how much we've spent and don't have so many things in terms of attributes, in terms of positions, profiles, we're lacking in all these areas. With all the money spent, how can that not be blasphemy? How can that not be absolutely, I can't even find the right word for it. It escapes me. How can we not have these things? It's beyond me, but we don't now have the money to actually go and get these things that we now need. And it's also cheeky to even say that we need these things after the money spent and oh, Lord heavens. I completely understand the point of don't even want them to buy anyone because you can't trust them to buy anyone because look at the people they're trying to buy at times. So just don't even do anything. I understand those Chelsea fans that are like, don't even do anything because you've done enough. You've done so much wrong and we don't trust you anymore with signings after what happened 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago. I don't even want you to do anything because you're going to make it 10 times worse. God forbid you put 60 million bid in for actually Garnacho. Oh, God Lord, we'll be in a mental crisis. You have to take me to a fucking asylum. So I get it. But we do need players, and it appears we're not going to get any. Let's see. But am I betting on it? Am I banking on it? Absolutely not. Of course I'm not. So yeah, Chelsea right now, I'm looking at the game against West Ham. I'm looking at, obviously, what can we do differently? I've snuck in Thomas Tuchel's formation in the Wolves preview, the 3-4-3. That's how you get the extra 2 10s involved. That's how you get the wingers that aren't providing enough output, maybe some of them as wing backs, to just provide a bit more defensive stability as a 5, to stop leaking goals. I'm trying my best to think of random shit that could help us. Gusto as an overlapping fullback instead of as a inverted 10 to give Palmer a new position, to add a 10 there. I don't know, but let's get into the press conference. We'll get into the tactics real quick, and maybe I have a special guest for you. Who knows? But yeah, in terms of the presser, Maresca was asked about the goalkeeping situation because he's been so bullish on Robert Sanchez to the point where it's revolting and disgusting, and it's making me heave. Now he has opened the door ajar a little bit for a Jorgensen potential start coming into this game. He says he doesn't know who he's going to select as a goalkeeper. He then did go on to start mentioning other goalkeepers around Europe in terms of what they've been doing this season, as he did last week when he mentioned our other players and the mistakes they've made. The cover up and just the cover up and the backing of Robert Sanchez and the lengths that he's willing to go to back him is honestly it's disgraceful. But I don't know why he does it. You take your pick, you take your guess. You know who signed him, you know who the head of goalkeeping department, coaches, etc. There's a whole heap of links and there's a whole heap of connections and there's a whole heap of politics, and we already know that at our football club. To pretend that people get a fair chance and an equal opportunity and it's done on meritocracy or form is absolute bollocks, and it's clear as day. If someone's allowed to make mistake after mistake or poor performance after poor performance and they can't be taken out of the team until we literally are on our knees begging, then there must be something wrong. So yeah, that situation, we'll see who starts against West Ham, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over it in terms of I wouldn't build up any hope for it in terms of Jorgensen. Let's just see what happens. Of course, yes, the transfer window, he's asked about that. He seems like he's quite excited for it to close. He spoke about Guiu, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Sometimes he sees something, sometimes he doesn't. Man's talking like he's That So Raven and Disney Channel, seeing visions and whatnot. I've already said enough on Guiu. I don't believe Guiu is ready to shoulder the burden of being Chelsea's second choice striker. You can definitely make a clear case for Jackson actually needing to be that second choice striker with the finishing and the lack of left foot kind of conviction that we saw against Manchester City to take that shot, and in general over the course of the season to take those left footed shots, and go and get a new top striker like Gyökeres or an Isak or whoever takes your fancy, and reshuffle the order in the hierarchy of the striker position. Washington, I've already mentioned him, has gone to Santos on loan. I find that a complete farce. Again, development plan, where is it? You bring this kid over for 18 months to sit and rot in the under-23s to go and send him exactly where he came from. Ridiculous. That's borderline human trafficking. I speak about Washington a lot because I care. Some people don't care about Washington. They forget about him. They forget he exists. I'm Selena Gomez. I'm crying online. I'm fuming that Washington hasn't been given a development path. I'd actually like to see if this asset, I'm going to call him that now, if this player that we purchased was actually worth the hype, the potential. I want to see the progression, the development. I've said this before on this channel, I'll say it again. I do not like killing players' careers. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's a habit we should get into. And why shouldn't we? Because actually word goes around and people chat. And if we develop a reputation for basically just hoarding players like we're on Channel 4, like we've got a broken microwave in the shed, instead of actually having some sort of clear project and strategy and BSing our way to say to these people that we have a project and strategy, to lie to them to come to the club, to then not have a plan for them. Well, other players are watching us. Other players have eyes. They have ears. They are clearly watching what we do and how we move, and they'll say to themselves, well, actually, I don't think I'll join Chelsea because I don't think they're actually as serious as they say, or they're not actually going to develop me, or they're actually not going to get me to where I want to be. So I'll just take a pass on that. And we've been rejected by a few people in this window, and the proof is in the pudding. He spoke about Graham Potter, of course, and the way that he is as a manager. Listen, I'm not going to get into all of that. We know Graham Potter already, and we're going to talk about him when we get to the tactical pad. But it's a big game. Every game is a big game. We need top four. Anything under that is an absolute abomination. It's an underachievement. It's intolerable. It shouldn't be accepted. I don't think a team that's sitting in Conference League, able to basically play in third or fourth, fifth gear, first or second gear, not fourth or fifth, week in, week out in that competition against pretty shit teams. I don't think they have the excuse of not making Champions League in when it's their number one objective, as we saw in the matchday programme. So at the start of the season, now we move to the tactical pad. And like I said, let's try and figure out what we can do to win against West Ham, win this football match. Okay, so we're here with the tactical pad. As you can see, the two teams on screen. I've got the West Ham team on there as well because obviously Graham Potter, I've taken a bit of an interest into how he set his team up in the last game. And also because he's coming back to Stamford Bridge. It's a big game for him. He's obviously got a bit of a chip on his shoulder after what happened in his time here. And we do not need that headline or that shock. But we have to talk about it because that's the next game. 3-4-3. That can obviously become a back five when it needs to be, and it could potentially, if they sense danger and a sense of nerves or some sort of fear in the air at Stamford Bridge, they may even attack with the five. Emerson, I think he scored against us not so long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. Back post, Madueke didn't track him at Olympic Stadium, if you remember rightly. That is why I've actually taken Madueke out of the team and put Neto. Now, it is literally just, I actually can't stand the situation we have with our wingers because I don't actually want to play any of them right now. I'm not happy with any of our wingers, I'll be honest. Literally none of them. I don't think any of them are playing to the level we need them to play to. I don't think any of them are putting out the output that we need them to put out. And I can't really trust Madueke to not switch off as he did for the Vardiel goal and then leave someone like Emerson at the back post if we move to a free. I'm just going to show here. And Emerson is making that run forward as he will. And I can't trust Madueke at all times to get back, as Neto hopefully will do better and actually cover off that run and help out our Reece James. If Reece James is going to start, we still have to look after him, we still have to protect him because we do know he is fragile and he's just off the back of an injury. So that's part of my reason for why Neto is there, but I don't want to really play Neto because what is Neto's best attribute? Crossing. And what can we not still seem to find in the transfer market to just give us a little bit of a different, contrast or variety to Jackson is a box presence, someone that can win headers, someone that can attack the ball. Ivan Ferguson, speaking of, I don't think he comes to us. I think West Ham makes way more sense. He's going to guaranteed start. I mean, just look who I've got up front for West Ham. It's Paqueta playing in this kind of floating false nine role. We know that Antonio is out. We know that Fulkrug is always either out or not really in form. He's aging as well. Ivan Ferguson, former manager Graham Potter, he's going to get opportunities to start, and he's actually got Kudus's and Paqueta's, and whenever Bowen's back and whenever Somerville's back, there's people to create for him. It's actually a pretty decent environment under a manager. Chelsea, probably to sit on the bench for Jackson. Does that really make any sense for someone that needs game time from Brighton? Not really. It's a weird situation. But I want to ask a good friend of mine, actually, what has he made of Graham Potter since he arrived at his club?
Very impressed with Graham Potter so far. I didn't want to watch any of Lopetegui's press conferences. Now I watch every single one of Potter's press conference. I like the way he conducts himself. I like what he's trying to do with the team. We already look like we're working so much harder on and off the ball. And you can see what he's trying to implement. I couldn't see what Lopetegui was trying to do. We saw no progress. The first game against Villa in the cup, that first half, we looked unbelievable. Actually pressing, actually moving off the ball. So I've got a lot of high hopes. And some of these players that were good in previous years that have been terrible this season, he unlocked them. So once he gets his players in, once he gets time with his team, I'm very optimistic for the future, that's for sure.
So there you have it. That's the Graham Potter viewpoint from our brother Lawless. And as I was saying with Chelsea and West Ham here, obviously, Cole Palmer, you can't really not have him in the team. I'd like to actually do this, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to bench Neto and Madueke, and I'm going to start Felix because I just feel like I need to see something fresh. And someone that still, I think, wants to be here, someone that was really public and, quite clear in his social media kind of movements, how much he really wanted to be here last time he was here. And right now, honest to God, and I'm not just saying it, people that actually want to be here, want to prove a point, want to play, show some sort of energy and intensity when they come on the pitch, that's really important for a team that is in poor form, where there's a lot of heads rolling and spinning and looking in different directions at other clubs. So I'm playing Felix not only because I think he wants to be here despite the Aston Villa links, but also because I want to see Palmer a little bit in a different position and just rejig and redo our attack a little bit. So I've got Felix. You still do find Palmer in those positions. And look, with Reece James, you're asking him to potentially go up and down. And I do get that could be quite taxing, right? Maybe you do go Gusto. It is a London derby, maybe you do go James 60 minutes. And then maybe you bring on Gusto for 30 minutes. Maybe you do Gusto 60 minutes. You go Reece James 30 minutes. But I'm just trying to think of something different because I can't bear to see Neto crossing the ball into Jackson up against Kilman and Mavropanos or Kufal, quite tall players that he's not necessarily going to win that header, win that fight. And then the ball just comes back. Or Madueke, like I said, am I going to be able to trust him to track back? If it is Reece James, maybe Emerson's going to have him going up and down. Maybe that could be quite taxing. Cole Palmer, he does work hard. Maybe he'll gas out in the second half. He has been dropping off quite a lot in second halves and been really poor. But, when he was on that right-hand side under Pochettino, it's not like as if he wasn't tracking back or working hard. So maybe he can help out. But there are probably players that are tired and jaded in that midfield. What can you do? We haven't brought anybody in. Cassidy, I think his deal is actually going to be made permanent. We spoke about ourselves quite a bit. Let's ask, actually, Lawless, what is West Ham's major threat? What do we need to look out for?
Right now it's going to be, if Paqueta is fit, because he did pick up a little bit of a groin strain, so it's 50-50. If he's fit, it's going to be him because he seems to have benefited the most from Graham Potter coming in. He's been, a massive threat going forward in terms of goals, in terms of creating. Obviously, he can still get involved defensively as well, but he just seems to be playing with so much more freedom and confidence under Potter. So it would be him. Otherwise, it Kudus. Kudus has struggled because what players are doing are just doubling and tripling up on Kudus, so he struggled a bit. That's why having Bowen back and having those more attacking threats back will free him up a bit. But yeah, I'll go with Paqueta on the basis that he plays. Otherwise, it's going to be Kudus.
Well, there you have it. So, listen, the other issue I have with this team is that it just doesn't have enough people behind it, giving it the kick up the arse that it needs. Right? That just for me screams that the squad size is there, but the quality, trust, reliance, mental commitment is not. So when I'm looking to make changes to a team that hasn't been brilliant and could do with a shake-up, I don't really have many options. There's nothing on that left wing I can really do but Sancho, unless you put Felix out there. But again, he keeps saying he's a 10, so there's no point harping on about that at this point. Unless you do, literally do what we did against Leicester. You put Palmer back in that 10, you take Sancho out and you do go over Neto and you look at it like that. You could do that. What you do by doing that is obviously you get an extra shooter in Felix because Sancho doesn't take many shots. Maybe he can, come inside and start offering more of a goal threat in that way. You also could look at it as Cucurella crashing the box. A weakness that Lawless is going to tell us about could be why you might see Cucurella in this position quite a bit.
Konstantinos Mavropanos. He was suspended for the Villa game, so we had two fullbacks in the back three in Soufal and Creswell next to with Kilman. Mavropanos, he's a solid defender, but he's very error prone. And if you guys remember when you played us at London Stadium, all three of your goals came when this guy was in midfield for no reason. And Kilman has Kilman has been, struck. Some people have been doubting Kilman because look who he's been playing against. So if Mavropanos is playing, that is going to be it. Catching him out of position, exploiting his lack of pace. And if he's not playing, it's going to be Soufal there. And again, you can exploit his lack of pace. So that is going to be, I think, a big thing. You've got some pacey players like Madueke and Cuckoo and things like that that could be a threat.
So there you are. So yeah, Cucurella, listen, one of our biggest goal threats at the football club right now reminds me of Marcos Alonso a little bit, which is a little bit concerning, but this is where we're at. Cucurella, he does have good movement. When he's in and around the box, better movement than our attackers. He seems to smell danger. He seems to make those late runs. He seems to have an understanding of where he needs to be a little bit more than the others. And if Mavropanos or Kufa are going to be a bit stiff, are going to be a bit slow on the turn, Cucurella actually might get us a penalty. Cucurella might actually, not necessarily physically impose him, but he will leap. He will actually make a fist fight of it. He will understand that the cross is coming in and that he needs to attack it, whereas Jackson is never on the end of these things. So you might see a situation where Cucurella is obviously making those runs and, the crossing them from Neto starts, and that's where all of these balls start coming in from this angle and whatnot. But I don't know, I as much as it has worked for us in games against Brentford, in others, it's not what a £1.4 billion team should be doing in terms of attacking options or the way that we go forward. This is not something that we should be able to pull out of our pocket and say, yeah, the only option we have in attack right now is to cross to the back post of Cucurella and hope for late runs. With all the money we've spent on the attack, with all the options we have in attack, we should be a little bit more creative, dynamic, thorough, ruthless than that, to then have to rely upon a left back to do it. But again, this is the situation we're in. I think to be honest, last thing before I wrap up, I actually do think Chalobah was potentially worse than Colwell against Man City. If you look at the goals, it's Chalobah's positioning when Colwell is obviously backed up with Haarland and he is trying to get the ball off him, but he's obviously, Colwell's goal side and Haaland's in front. He's obviously going to shield, he's going to hold, and he's going to release. It's Chalobah that's actually ball watching or coming towards the ball and not tracking the run of Foden. It's Chalobah that is making the run out wide with Haaland, although that was all Sanchez for me because that's not a goal scoring opportunity. So, but the last time we saw a good defensive performance was with Chalobah and Tosin. So, yeah, that's what I've reverted back to. Obviously, you don't need to ask. I would bench Sanchez and I would put in Jorgensen. Shouldn't even have to ask me. But just in case you're confused, there you have it. But guys, let me know in the comments down below, what is your score prediction? I've asked Lawless what his is.
Yeah, if with our strongest 11, like you said, it's a good time to play Chelsea. Still, it's at the Bridge. We don't have the best record there. I'm going to be fairly conservative and go 2-2. If those players are out, then I think it would be a 2-1 Chelsea, just because we're not going to give you enough of a threat for you to worry about, so you guys can sort of attack us with a little bit more confidence that we're not going to go up the other end, because we saw against Crystal Palace how much we struggled when we had those players missing, and you take Paqueta out, who is right now our most informed attacker. That's just impossible, absolutely impossible. If honestly, if we had those players out and you didn't beat us or we beat you, Maresca's job should be under serious consideration, and Potter should really get a new 5-year deal if he pulls that out, because that'd be a miracle.
Well, there you are. So mine, I'll go over 2-1 Chelsea win, because it looks like West Ham do have a couple of injury issues. Hopefully those players are actually not available, because that will help us greatly. But yeah, am I looking forward to the game? No. Am I looking forward to deadline day and all of the nonsense and the waffling and the rumours that really probably won't materialise? No. But we're going to be there anyway regardless. Smash up the likes, guys. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. In a bit, people. Peace.